Winning a championship is incredibly hard to do in the NBA, no matter the era or conditions. However, it's impossible to ignore that some titles appear to have an easier path than others. For example, the Golden State Warriors of 2017 and 2018, who would win back-to-back titles, but had two MVP caliber players in the primes of their careers. Is that really worth the same as Hakeem Olajuwon's back-to-back titles with the Houston Rockets in the 90s? Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive and answering the question, are all championships worth the same? And what were the hardest championships in NBA history? This video was sponsored by Manscaped.com, the premium global brand for men's hygiene and grooming solutions. The new performance package is the perfect place to start, as the package includes the Lawnmower 4.0 used for, you guessed it, mowing the lawn, the Weed Whacker 2.0, the nose and ear trimmer, the Crop Preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner and refresher, and the disposable Magic Mac to catch all of your trimmings. Manscaped will also chuck in free gifts. You'll receive Manscaped's anti-chafe boxes, the travel bag, the shed. You'll get all of this and more in the performance package 4.0. So what are you waiting for? Use promo code BALLREACH for 20% off Manscaped products. That's BALLREACH for 20% off. The Denver Nuggets won their first title in NBA history versus the Miami Heat in 6 games. However, many have already criticized the Nuggets' run by stating that the Nuggets played 3 play-in teams on the way to a title. However, the Lakers and the Heat were clearly playing on a higher level than other teams, such as the Minnesota Timberwolves, as the Miami Heat beat the one-seeded Milwaukee Bucks in convincing fashion. As for the Lakers, their trade deadline moves made them a completely different team, as their 43-39 record wasn't a clear example of what kind of team they were in the postseason. If your 2 best players are LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you've got a pretty good chance to go far in the postseason. The Nuggets were still clearly the best team in the NBA in the postseason, as the Denver Nuggets would beat the Durant-Booker Suns in 6 games, as Nuggets center Nikola Jokic averaged a ridiculous 26.2 points, 12.3 rebounds, 7.8 assists, 1.4 steals on 55.3% from the field over the course of the playoffs, while recording 10 triple-doubles. To rank the title out of 10, I'd give it a 7.5, as it was the first title in Nuggets history while still playing high-level competition. Another championship that receives a lot of criticism is the Los Angeles Lakers bubble title. No crowds meant no away games, but the critics often forget to mention that there was also no home games, meaning the players had to fire themselves up pre-game, which would have been a lot harder than you'd think. Many players who were in the bubble described it as an open gym style of game. With players stuck in their hotel rooms for months on end, I honestly think that the bubble was a harder championship that many give it credit for. LeBron James was the catalyst for the Lakers beating the Heat in 6 games, as LeBron averaged 27.6 points, 10.8 rebounds, 8.8 assists, 1.2 steals on 56% shooting, while Jimmy Butler put up 22.2 points, 6.5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals on 48.8% shooting. The 2019 NBA championship ranks an 8.5 out of 10 for me, as most of the struggle in the bubble wasn't heavily documented at the time. Championships that may be considered a lower worth would be the back-to-back Warriors in 2017 and 2018, the Miami Heat Big 3 titles, and the Toronto Raptors of 2019. The Raptors have an interesting case, where the Golden State Warriors Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson would be sidelined after serious injuries, as most would agree the Raptors had no business winning that title. Luck definitely plays a part in winning, however. Obtaining 4 All-Stars on one team with a deep bench just isn't fair. This is how many fans viewed the signing of KD, as the Golden State Warriors crushed Cleveland in back-to-back years, ruining a rivalry for years to come. Imagine if Michael Jordan decided to join the Boston Celtics after losing to Boston in the first round. You would have to imagine Boston would win at least 3 more titles with MJ and Bird on the same team, completely ruining the Magic-Bird rivalry. LeBron and Curry's rivalry is still talked about, but imagine how much more impactful it could have been if the 2017 and 18 NBA Finals were on the same tier as 2015 and 16. The hardest championships were built from the ground up by not forcing trades and building a strong team with solid role players centered around one star. These teams include the 2011 Dallas Mavericks, who would take down the super team Miami Heat thanks to a collapse of LeBron James, who had one of the worst playoff series in his career, as he averaged 17.8 points, 7.2 rebounds, 6.8 assists, 1.7 steals on 47.8% shooting from the field, while Dirk crushed the Heat with 26 points, 9.7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 0.7 blocks on 41.6% shooting, as Dallas would win in 6 games. The Cleveland 3-1 comeback in the 2016 NBA Finals versus the Warriors would be a pinnacle of a hard championship for sure, as I'd rank that a 10 out of 10. Not only the comeback, but also the 73-9 record the Warriors had, and Cleveland's sporting title drought for more than 50 years. Some argue that this is the hardest championship in pro sports history. If you're going to compare the 2016 Cavs to the 2018 Golden State Warriors, you have to say that one might be worth more than the other. Should we look at a certain player's legacy differently? The answer is a confusing one, and fans are still waiting for Kevin Durant to lead his own team as the sole star to a championship. However, the trade to join Devin Booker in Phoenix and now the addition of Bradley Beal is making this an unlikely possibility. The number of championships on the resume stay the same, however the value is different, as the 1995 Rockets, with 1 All-Star, is clearly a harder title than the Golden State Warriors sweeping the Cavs in 2018. If we're going to value championships differently, Kevin Durant's 2 championships, I'd rank both of those a 5 out of 10 for me, which would now make KD's chips both worth half a single title, making Durant only have 1 title in value, while Hakeem's value would be a championship and a half, carrying his Rockets on both sides of the floor, as as in 1994 Hakeem would average 28.9 points, 11 rebounds, 1.7 steals, and 4 blocks, while shooting 51.9% from the field during the playoff run. Giving these titles value, I'd say both are a solid 1.5, making Hakeem's titles now worth 3. LeBron's Cavaliers would jump up to a 1.5 rating as well, while his Miami chips would go down to a half, and the bubble chip would stay at a 1 for me. This would now mean LeBron's title value would go down to a 3.5, losing half a chip. Now if we talk about LeBron, it's time for Michael Jordan. For me, none of Michael Jordan's titles lose any value, as MJ stayed true to the grind and won with what he had. In 1993, it would increase to 1.5, as the Phoenix Suns with Charles Barkley were arguably the toughest matchup for the Bulls, while 1996, 1997, and 1991 would also receive a bump, making Jordan's new title score an 8, making the GOAT case even more solid. Comment down below a player who you want to see me rank that championship value score, and I will do my best to get to all of your comments. Watch our ranking video on the top 10 greatest point guards in NBA history next.